Bonjour. Hi. I hope you don't mind me speaking in English today, because believe me, it's a lot better than my French. Even though I think my French is perfect, I get a lot of comment? Quoi? So, thank you for having me. My name is Amy Hedrick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cleanbox Technology. And while that might sound like a very boring part of such an amazing, sexy industry, I can assure you that it's very, very critical for all the amazing projects you're working on to, at some point, have your business think about this particular part of an XR strategy. So I'm going to talk about comfort, hygiene, and immersive technology, and I'll try to keep it non-boring and not talk about too many gross things. At this point, I think everyone here is a believer in XR, virtual or augmented immersive strategies, and all of the capabilities and opportunities that come with them. I believe it's also, at this point, a business reality. With my company, we work with organizations across different industry verticals. For instance, it's not just entertainment. We're in healthcare. We're in anything that's automated. We're working with automotive companies, assembly line, research and development, or remote expertise. So I consider it a business reality that XR will need to be, or is becoming, an integral part of a way to communicate with your audience or your clients or your patients, depending on what business that you're in. Here we have just, examples of how you can see sports, virtual tourism, healthcare, and of course, groups like this. So one thing that this is doing is not just affecting how companies think about XR, but it's also really, really impacting how consumers think about products and consumer expectations. So it's not that the creators here and the enterprise minds and the businesses are influencing their end consumer. That consumer is becoming accustomed to a product that is immersive, that offers them something different than a 2D or one-dimensional or even 3D visual or experience. They're looking for something different. It has an impact on that. I've been working with my company and going to events and speaking at events for about 1.5 years now. I can say from a year ago to today, the growth has been almost exponential. And that is just both on the business side as well as the consumer side. So with growth comes a need for companies to really think about their strategy. Because obviously for your return on investment, but also thinking about the industry as a whole. So I've put a quick ABC together. Comprehensive strategy should address quality, mission-focused content. I think most of the people here, or at least half of the people at this event, have some sort of focus. They've developed their product, they've developed their content, they have a specific business plan or a specific strategy, and that's really, really critical. Quality, I see over the last year, has become, is getting better and better. So everything from the content that somebody produces to how they actually display it to the length of time. So I see, and I'm excited by the fact that people are better and better understanding their end consumer. Hygiene is the second part of that comprehensive strategy, and that's something that my company addresses. Hygiene is important because a headset, whether it's a virtual reality headset, an augmented reality, or mixed reality headset, it's a very personal piece of equipment. It's on your face. It's even more personal than this microphone right here, which is right next to my mouth. So let's just say I'm sick and I cough on this. That's a personal experience for the person who wears this next. And by the way, I'm not sick, so whoever does wear this next, don't worry, or you can come use my product to clean it. But when you have something on your face and head, the idea is to fully immerse your consumer in that experience. Well, guess what? They're fully immersed in the physical experience of the person before them. Sweat, body oils, saliva, hopefully not blood, but if you're in healthcare, that is always a strong possibility. And that is why it is very, very critical to protect your customers, not just on the experience side, but also the risk mitigation side. The legal side, which is arguably a bit more important in the US, maybe we're a bit more litigious than some other countries, but I do think it's also really critical, and large organizations do see a need in their risk departments to address hygiene. Safety and operational planning, and I believe that this is right next with hygiene, one of the most, one of the least thought of components of an XR strategy. And that is thinking, now I already know, I know which, I prefer the Rift, or I prefer the Vive, or I prefer the Pico or the Pi Max. Okay, I know what hardware I like, I know what, my backpacks, I know if I like tethered or untethered. I got that, I like these content creators, I like this layout. Now let's think about, how do we monetize this? How does this fit into my business plan? Because at some point, an investor wants their money back, or your company wants to show a profit, or they want to show the potential of a profit in the next 12 to 24 to 48 months. And that is, as safety and operational planning is a critical part of you being able, as on one side of that, to continue to develop an opportunity in XR. So more people is what we want, right? We want more people using our product, having our experiences, and falling in love with it. More people, more challenges, better hygiene is required. And not to make this all about my company, because it's certainly not, and that would be boring, and I wouldn't listen to myself talk about hygiene all day. But that is an important part to think about. Again, we've talked about it being an intimate experience, and I would argue that a business use case around XR is leading the way to a broader consumer adoption. I know that VR and AR have been buzzwords for a while, industry buzzwords, and some investors have said, well, I don't know that it's really panned out like we thought it would. And I honestly think that's because the cart came before the horse. I don't know if that, I hope that translates here the same way, but basically targeting the end consumer without a fully developed product and plan. But now that we're there, and I think that we're either there or we're very much close to almost being there, this is important. So numerous touch points on the face and head. And one thing I'd like to throw in there, entertainment. I actually might come to this a little bit later, but basically things that we learn in entertainment translate to other business models. One thing's for sure. What starts on my face will end up on yours. So, to hygiene and contagions. Again, sorry, this is not the sexy talk that you were hoping for, but let's talk about it anyway. Soft surfaces, fabrics, Velcro, even leather, other kinds of upholstery, those soak up contagions very, very quickly. And if you've ever been to a hospital or you read anything in healthcare journals, you will know that this is not an uncommon thing. A lot of people get sick from going to the hospital because of the fact that contagions like to live in soft textile surfaces. So coughing, transfer of microbes, they do transfer from one person to the next, and they can live up to 48 hours. This is what our current efforts are. These are great efforts, and I've used many of them myself. However, what we're really talking about is a premium experience, right? Premium experience, and again, reminding, it comes back to your business use case. What you want is repeat customers. You want people to love the experience because they love the content, because they loved having that headset on them for 10 or 15 minutes, depending, or 30 minutes if you were fully engaged in a group project. And they want to feel comfortable in that. So these, I consider, barriers of entry to some of that. And just again about our product, and then we'll move on. Cleanbox provides premium solutions because we use medical grade UVC light, but we use it in an LED as opposed to a mercury tube. So you don't have any heat, there's no toxins, and it's very, very safe for people and for electronics. We have product that cleans multiple headsets at once, from large form factors to small, more AR non-360 glasses. We also do custom work where we take our core technology and build it into other people's hardware. A few of our use cases were being used in hospitals, in Cleveland, Ohio, if you guys know some of the more famous healthcare systems there. In operation, pre-operation, post-operation. You can see in this picture a virtual reality gym, which is in San Francisco. And if you haven't tried one yet, I recommend it. It's a lot more fun than going on the treadmill, I can guarantee that. So hygiene, what difference does it make? Again, I'll keep this short because we've kind of talked about this already. Clean experiences between each user. When I come to these events, and I love trying new things, and I love, especially if I haven't seen it before, the last thing I want to do at an event, if I'm not there before the event opens and I can't try your experience, about 4 hours in, I probably won't. And I'm not the only person that says this. And the reason for that is, I don't want to smell it. I don't want to feel the wetness from somebody else's head. I don't want to think about all the people I just saw, wiping their nose or coughing or walking out, and I don't want to risk that. And maybe I'm a more germaphobe than some people, but it does make a difference whether I try your product or not. That also might make a difference if I'm an investor and I might want to invest in your company. I might not have that premium experience that you created because, of the reasons that I just mentioned. Headsets need to dry. That's not just because of putting a wet headset on. It's also because the electronics are vulnerable to moisture, as we all know. And then, of course, the ecological impact of having disposables or anything that's single use. So, moving on. What really matters? You never get a second chance to make first impression. I'm sure we've all heard that, yes? Yes? We live? Sorry, all I see is dark out here, so just wanted to make sure somebody was there. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And going back to the idea of VR and AR as buzzwords for the last couple of years, the cart before the horse, maybe the idea of the opportunity and of the possibility was out there, and the product has had to catch up. Right? So that's cost the industry a little bit. It's costed a little bit in investment, and there's a little bit less of it, and a little bit of more of a learning curve that we've had to deal with. I think I saw it, maybe it was on LinkedIn. There was an article that was shared in Forbes recently about not making people sick. Well, why do people worry about getting sick when they do VR experiences? Because they got sick from poor lag time, from subpar content creation, or maybe the technology wasn't quite there. That is a first impression that now the industry has to overcome. So your experience should be immersive from start to finish. That's the second one. So if you come in and you say, you know what, I'm going to take you to this brand new amazing world. I'm going to take you to Jurassic Park, but we're going to experience the real thing. But I want you to sit in this dark corner on this chair over here, and then in 5 seconds, as soon as you put this on, you're going to be in Jurassic World. You can eventually convince part of your brain that you're going to be there. But part of that immersion, I think, goes beyond that, or it should go beyond that, and lead into the content creation and lead into the actual experience. I love that I'm seeing more and more of that, and more attention to detail, whether that be by way of haptics, by way of some experiences have different smells, temperature. Some of those are gimmicky. They can come across that way, but some of them can be highly effective. And I would encourage those of you who do especially entertainment, immersive experiences, to think about the small ways that make a difference. If you're just throwing in a haptic to throw in a haptic and say you did it, it might not work for you. But if you think through the storyline and the major points that you're getting from the content creation to what you're actually trying to convince someone to experience, that will probably trigger ideas that you might say, hey, this sense, this smell would be impactful here. I will give you a quick example of something that actually does not include haptics, but the experience itself was so immersive I had a physical reaction. So KLM, the airlines, they're quite open about some of the content that they're creating, and they create it for training pilots as well as flight attendants. So I was there. A few months ago, we've been working with them. They're a great group of people, very creative. So one of my friends there, Chris, said, "Amy, try this flight attendant training program." I'm like, sure, no problem. I'm on a plane all the time. How hard can it be, right? So I put this on, and he said, "By the way, you're in first class. Here's a first class cabin, and there's a fire on the plane, and you're, 30,000 feet above." Okay, all right, well, first of all, we're all dead anyway, so what am I going to do anyway? But, there is the fact that you've got people on this plane. So here I am, first class, people on the plane, nobody notices it first, but I start to see smoke coming out of the top of the storage area. First thing I had to do was make sure everyone was calm and not, rushing the front. Then I had to find the fire extinguishers. So I started putting out the fire, but then, of course, it didn't work. Smoke kept coming out. Passengers started getting anxious, and then they started staring at me. And I was up there. Now I've already gone through one fire extinguisher. One person gets highly aggressive, gets up from his seat, and starts walking toward me like this. Well, I started to, even though I'm completely safe, I'm in VR, I am in a simulation, that physical movement, I found myself catching myself like, okay, I've got to prepare for this. Oh wait, it's fake. And then the smoke got greater and greater. Then it was coming from the floor and from the head. Then people started coughing across the whole plane. Then a baby starts crying. And then the entire cabin is filled with smoke. Now, I'm sitting there in the offices at KLM, and even though there was clearly no smoke, I could feel it. In fact, I thought I could smell it. I almost started, because I'm very sensitive anyway, so I almost started coughing just as a psychological reaction to an experience I had. All of that is to say, you don't always have to have other types of haptics in your experience, but when they're done the right way, they can be effective, and sometimes you don't need them at all. The key is that whatever the story is that you're trying to share, you make that a premium experience. And you think about your end goal as opposed to just the surroundings. It's all connected. So what happens in entertainment doesn't stay there. I will wrap this up because I'm slightly short on time. But I call entertainment the gateway to consumer adoption because that's usually the first way people think about and hear of XR experiences. I think we can learn from what some of the other entertainment companies have learned, and I would encourage us all to look at, from that point of view, business models, logistics, operational rollout. On that point, though, I think that the industry as a whole is still young enough that we should keep in mind that a rising tide floats all boats. What helps one part of the industry will certainly, at this point, have an impact one way or another on the rest of the industry. Business protection, again, coming back to a premium experience, which is what we're talking about. Repeat customers, cost effectiveness, thinking about the environment, and risk mitigation. So one of the things that I like to say at the end of my presentation is how to think about using tech as a second skin, which is ultimately what immersive tech does. It makes you feel like you're somewhere else. So in a sense, that technology becomes a second skin on you. How do you do that? Well, think about how you feel when you're in a headset. And what I call a 10-minute live-it. Can you live in this for 10 minutes? Can you? Do you like the experience enough? Are you engaged in it enough? Are you comfortable enough? Are you distracted? Or can you actually, when you're listening to the sound, can you actually feel like you're there? And if you can do that for 10 minutes, then you will have a repeat customer. That person will come back to your next experience, and they'll pay for it again. And then they'll tell their friends, and then they'll pay for it again. And that's how you come back to premium content, premium experience. So just to simplify it and summarize, using proactive use of technology, thinking about your end goal and what the best tricks of the trade are that work specific for your experience and what you're trying to accomplish, making it easy to use, keeping it comfortable, thinking about safety of your customer and your business. And thank you guys very much for your time.